We're looking at posting the purchases daybook and the purchases returns book of Nelson. And you can see here that during the month of October, Nelson bought goods on credit from Carter and Allen Limited. They've bought goods 4 times. These are the amounts leaving out the tax, the VAT, and the 1320 in Carter's case, for example, refers to the fact that we bought goods costing 1200 plus VAT of 10%, with an overall cost to us of €1320. So we owe Carter €1320. That will be the figure on the invoice we received from them. Because it's a credit transaction, we've got to keep an account for Carter. And we keep an account for Carter in our creditors ledger. Remember that a ledger is a place where you keep accounts. And in our creditors ledger, I've opened up an account for Carter Limited and for Allen Limited. I'm using the old-fashioned T accounts here with the debit side on the left and the credit side on the right. That's fairly common for explaining debit and credit. So remember, our rule for debit and credit is debit the receiving account and credit the giving account. So because we've bought goods from Carter twice in October, on the 1st and the 20th, we're going to credit Carter twice on those dates. So October 1, purchases from our point of view, and I'm getting this information from the purchases table, and the value of the purchase is €1,320. Again on the 26th, for 1100. I've credited Carter because Carter gave. We've bought the goods on credit from them. And for Allen on the 5th and the 20th, October 5 and 20, purchases. From our point of view, it's purchases daybook, €1,650, and on the 20th, again, purchases daybook, and the amount is 2,200. I credit Allen because Allen gave, credit the giver. So we've got 4 credit purchases during the month, and I've got 4 credit entries here in those accounts. These are creditors' accounts in our creditors' ledger. I've now done 1/2 of the so-called double entry. Double entry refers to the need to have your debits matching your credits. So I've got 4 credit entries here. I've credited Carter and Allen because they gave, and I must finish the double entry by going to the purchases account and the VAT account and debiting those accounts respectively with 5,700 and 570. So here's my purchases account in the general ledger, and I'm going to debit it on the last day of the month. October 31, sundries, that's another word for miscellaneous, or the 5,700 is made up of different separate figures. I'm getting the information from the purchases daybook. I've debited the purchases account with 5,700, and I go to the VAT account and I debit it with the 570. October 31, I put down purchases just to make it clear that it's the purchases and it's the VAT on the purchases daybook, 570. And now my debits and credits match. I had 4 credit purchases during the month, so I credited my creditors' accounts 4 times. If I had only 1 credit purchase during the month, there would be only 1 credit entry. If I had 500 credit purchases during the month, I would have to have 500 credit entries. But always just the 2 debits. You debit the purchases account with the total of the purchases, and you have the VAT in the VAT account. Now, my 4 credits will equal my 2 debits. And that has posted or transferred the purchases daybook of Nelson. Moving on to the purchases returns book, or the returns outwards book, we sent goods back to Carter and to Allen on the 12th and the 15th respectively. So, because I'm sending them back goods, they are receiving and I will debit their account. So I'll go to Carter on the 12th, October 12th, returns. I'm getting the information from the purchases returns book, and the value of the transaction is 440. It reduces by €440 the amount that I owe Carter. I've debited Carter because Carter is receiving the goods. I've sent goods back to Carter, debit the receiver. And similarly with Allen on October the 15th, October 15, returns, purchases returns book, and the value of the transaction is 550. So I've debited Carter with 440, I've debited Allen with 550. That finishes my debits. I must now complete the double entry by going to the purchases returns account and the VAT account with these figures here. I've debited Carter and Allen with the returns. I must now go to the credit side of the purchases returns account on October 31st. Sundries, miscellaneous, various. I've got this from the purchases returns book, and it's the 900 leave out the VAT. I've credited the purchase account, purchases returns account with 900, and then I go to the VAT account and I credit it with the VAT on the transaction the 90. So October 31, purchases returns book 90. So when I returned goods to Carter, I debited Carter because he received. I did the same for Allen. When I returned goods to Allen, I debited Allen because Allen received, and I match it with credit entries on the credit side of the purchases returns account and on the credit side of the VAT account. That finishes the double entry.